when we started employing empty post editing more, we just had to figure and just make this mental switch that even the best translators are not necessarily the best post editors.
And welcome everyone to Slator Pod. Today on the podcast we have two guests. Really excited for that. Gregor and Olivera Rosulnik. They both co-founded the Slovenia-based translation localization provider GORR. So hi Gregor and Olivera, thanks so much for joining today.
Hello, thanks for having us. It's a true honor. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Where in Slovenia are you? Ljubljana or somewhere else?
We are nearby, actually, in a small city nearby, yeah.
All right, so let's get this started. I'm really excited for this podcast. What inspired you to go into the language industry? You both have backgrounds from outside of translation. Maybe just tell us the background story before we start talking about business.
Thanks for asking. It's quite a long story, so I will keep it short so we can also focus on the things going on right now. But as you mentioned, none of us is actually a translator or linguist, have totally different backgrounds. Some circumstances in our life just brought us to start this business. I used to study in the Czech Republic. And I used to be quite good in English, so I translated some materials for our department. So this was my only touch with translation, which was just a way to get some pocket money. While Gregor, he has been for his whole life in sales. And when we met in Czech Republic, and in a year, I moved to Slovenia to get married after a while to him. So we were both at this life and business crossroads. I was figuring out what to do in Slovenia, not knowing the language. So, of course, I got just this translation experience, and I contacted the local agencies if I could get some translation job. And a couple of days after, I was actually invited to do the simultaneous interpreting. Yeah.
Steep learning curve right there.
I didn't know that at that point, which actually made me go to that booth. And it was a frightening and exciting experience altogether. And when I came home and Gregor asked me, how was it and how much money you've made? And he was like, okay, that sounds like something we could do, because he always wanted to have his own business, and we are both, into communication, and in our lives we met a lot of people from abroad, and we just loved the culture and everything. And we bought a laptop and started it, without doing any deep research, because if we did that, maybe we would have realized that there's a lot of competition, including freelancers, and maybe we wouldn't go that path. So that's more or less, that's a really short story, but just for the idea.
That said, though, Gregor, sales is not the worst background to be in the language industry.
Definitely. Everyone is looking for a good salesman. But maybe just to add, I'm really, really proud of that starting point, because, I always wanted to have my own company, and I was growing and trying to figure it out when the right time it will be, and that at that point, that was the moment when Olivera came home from the event, and I asked her how was it, and at the beginning was it was like, okay, that's good money, but now when I look back, it was actually I always actually loved communication. Communication was something that I really love. And I think the bottom line, and I heard it many times, that we are in the communication business. But at that time, I didn't knew that. So I actually finished economy and business, and I finished my diploma in communication, business communication, assertive communication. So I was always eager, you know, to be in contact with people, to communicate, and then to add on that, you know, is different cultures, different people from all over the world. Just to be able to be in contact with that was really good for me. So we kind of came together. Olivera has her strength, I had mine. So yeah, it was like simply that. I just bought a laptop, you know, pick up the phone and do what I was able to do, because that was something that I did from my early age, like say 15, 16 years old. I already had meetings, talking to people, selling. I was also in networking, so maybe if you know Amway, that was my start. So it was really hard, you know, struggling at the beginning, but really learning about sales, and you know, then just it come together, everything, and we felt lucky because at the beginning was like calling big Slovenian companies, you know, and we soon, like after a month, we actually we signed the first contracts. We were really happy, you know, because that's what Olivera said. We actually did our homework. We check, of course, yeah, there's a competition there. Okay, these are the prices, but the market actually told us that, you know, we have the opportunity there, and the opportunity is here. So that's why we moved on, and after 12 years, we're still here. I'm proud of it.
There you go. So tell me a bit about GORR in a nutshell. Like you said, you called the big Slovenian companies, but what kind of companies were those initially? And like, what's your client footprint now? What's like some of the areas of expertise? And are you still heavily focused on Slovenia, or in terms of the client base, has it expanded from there?
Yeah. So Slovenia is very small. 2 million people, but with the big heart. And also in Slovenia, you have love inside, you know, SLOVE, so Slovenia. So I always say that we have a lot of love, but, you know, the market and business-wise, it's very small market. So what we did, we actually started with cold calls, emailing, and followed with the meetings. And after a year or two, we actually, you know, signed a contract with bigger companies in Slovenia and maybe some in the region. So these are like some of the biggest retailers here, production companies and others. So it's more like B2B, but at the beginning, of course, we did B2C as well. We didn't say no to nothing at the beginning, but soon we figured that, you know, it's very so the resources, it's better to focus the resources on to B2B, because it's just one-time sales with B2C. So we kind of, that was our first realization. Okay, that's B2B business. Let's focus on that. But then, so that was like 2013, 2014, and then we slowly ask ourselves, rather I ask myself, what's the next step? How to sell outside of that, you know, outside the Slovenian border. And actually, soon I figured it's a very, very heavy task. So, but I remember I was at Lockworld in 2016, and I kind of opened the LSP to LSP pillar. So we then worked and we are still working for some of the biggest LSPs. And the third pillar, which came last, because we needed references, we worked for the government. For example, we now work for the police and some other organizations. So we are still in these three. We're still on these three pillars, if you will. But last couple of years, you know, we want to focus on our end clients, and especially, you know, domestic market, and that are markets which are like historically were always on the top for us. That's is the USA, so the States, and German market, which is like normal for Slovenian company. We do a lot of collaboration with Germany and some other countries in Europe.
In Europe. So Olivera, I saw on the website that you're also working with startups, right, that are looking to kind of scale their operations and do more localization. It's probably a pretty difficult market to get in, and like so how are you trying to get in there, and like what are some of the particular challenges of startups when they look at their kind of first localization project?
Thanks for asking. Actually, a couple of months ago, it was a more strong want of our company to reach to those companies. Actually, as we mentioned earlier, when we started as a team, we grew all together, learning lessons. And after 10 years of existence, we were okay. We've sort of reached whatever we as a team can figure out. So we reached out to the marketing agency to prepare us a fresh new strategy. So this idea came from them. They did this research that these companies are not addressed properly by LSPs. And later we didn't realize why. For us, when this was proposed, we knew from the top of our heads what the challenges are, but we said, okay, what the hell? Gregor and the team, we are selling well, so we will just go to them as well. And unfortunately, they are really challenging clients because they're really focused on fast growth. They're really focused on their products. They're really tied to a lot of stakeholders. So they do not need any distractions that they're not focusing on things that they don't think they need at the moment. And unfortunately, language and localization is a part of that. Plus, many of those companies are turned to the States, so English is the main language there. But what we've also noticed, and I think that is something that gave us a signal that we should maybe slow this path down. So we are still open to work with them, but it's not, on the headlines, is because we found that we don't have really the same values. We, as a GORR, as a team, we really value building on relationship and building on trust and building on those things, while we found that they are really on a much faster track than we are. So of course, we did manage to enter really great cooperation with some of the startups that even turned scale up. So we do have a couple of them both in Slovenia and abroad. But I think we clicked on this human-to-human level. These are the startups that in terms of their mentality were not typical startups. But I think there was a reason to take that ride. I think we've definitely learned a lot from that. So it was not a waste of time anyhow.
Do you have any challenges in terms of kind of technology and the languages you cover? So do you cover mostly like Southeast European languages, and then with all this, LLM technology, all this AI, is there a particular challenge using these tools in the languages you cover, or has kind of the technology there caught up already in these languages?
Do you think just startups, or in general all the companies?
I mean, just generally for you in terms of your language coverage, right? I would assume that you cover, given your location, that like Southeast European languages, Balkan language is probably your core, right? Slovenian, Croatian, Serbian, etc. So in terms of technology, we always look at these technologies like in, English to German or English to French or English to Spanish, like very high resources languages. Now, what's your take on, or your experience rather, using these tools, for machine translation, for maybe content generation in the languages that you're very strong in? Because I would assume, just from the outside, that they're a little lower resource and maybe they work less well in your languages?
First of all, as far as GORR and the languages we cover, at the beginning we did most of these language pairs. So of course it was a lot of projects they were related to Slovenian, Serbian, Croatian, towards like English, German, and so on. But lately, because of the portfolio of our clients, we do a lot of English and German to other languages. So also a lot of Korean and maybe also some African lately. So we want to cover that, to cover all the languages. But of course, I think we have the most insights in language pairs that you mentioned. But here I must say that I believe that it was when we started and when when Google actually went to neural machine translation, that was a huge thing, I think, for the industry and for ourselves as well. So, it is very interesting to see that, of course, they tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 4 languages, the tier 1 languages always resulted way better than Slovenian. And I think now the difference is not as huge, I would say. But we always rely on, results, your results, your findings, or Slator's findings, or Linguists' finding, or some others. So, because we are still a boutique LSP, so we have to rely on this data because we are too small to be just looking at our data. We are like more, we have some subjective opinion, for example, okay, for this, we will use DeepL, for example, or for that, we will use Google, or for that, we will use ChatGPT. And of course, we are using that, and we are leveraging that from, let's say, 2018, like on a daily basis. And what we find interesting now is to see that perception, people asking us now, which is an advantage in one hand and a big threat in the other hand.
So speaking of data, so we're collecting data about kind of performance in the language industry, and we saw that 2023 was quite tough for many LSPs unless you were in some type of special niche, right? 2024 seems to be stabilizing a little bit. Like, what has your experience been over the past couple of years? Of course, also because, ChatGPT came out, the perception issue, people think like translation's kind of a solved problem. So what was your experience in the recent 18 months maybe?
Yeah, it's very interesting, Florian. It's ups and downs.
Say more.
For me, it's an interesting road and it's interesting experience we're taking now and feeling now. One day we are happy, and another day we are pissed, undervalued, and I hope a lot of peers are listening to this podcast, and I think we have to stick together and fought through this, because for us, to answer your question, 2023 was tough, but we actually made the best year in 2022. So I guess it is not just an external fact. There's also an internal fact that you cannot always grow. We have. I'm seeing the trend that we were at the beginning. We were really growing fast, and then we had, we kind of reached the plateau, and then we were there for a couple of years, and then we again grow. And now again, I think we are on that level, and hopefully we're planning to come, to come to more millions of revenue to fulfill my mission, because my mission and vision was actually at the beginning to be an important LSP in the region, which means, having like 5 to 10 million in revenue, and hopefully something in profit, of course, but also what it's I think more important also for us just to have a positive effect on the society, not just profit. I was today listening about sustainability, and those kind of things are also very important for us. This year, coming back to the initial question, is that this year we are doing better, and I don't know for the whole industry, but I actually checked the annual reports for last year, and I saw not a big fall for all the LSPs, but there were like some held the revenue, some quite few actually we perform a little less better than the years before, but this year we started really well. So I'm thinking it's not just about what's happening out there. It's also about what's happening inside. We cannot only blame and just see the external factors. Of course, there's AI, but there were other crises, and everyone will say, every entrepreneur will say there was a crisis, and there was this kind of a crisis, that kind of a crisis. That's just the normal thing, you have to go through this, So in every crisis, some will stay and some will go. It just depends how resilient you are and what the basis is. That's what I believe. But to be honest and not fooling anyone, that it is hard and we have to fight twice as much nowadays. But I think we have to fight, and of course a lot of things will change. But I'm still hopeful.
So, Olivera, I think you're in charge of vendor management, right? And so one part of the equation is Gregor's top line, his sales, is going out there and finding clients. And then, of course, an important part is also the resources, the linguistic expertise. Even with all the AI in the world, for certain scenarios, you need expert linguists, of course. Tell me, how do you source them? How do you find them? How do you qualify them? And has it gotten easier or harder to find qualified linguists? We're getting kind of mixed signals. Some are saying, hey, because there's so much pressure, people are leaving, right? And it's getting harder. Others are saying, no, we don't see that. So what's your take on that?
Actually, I've been sharing now this department with a colleague. Although I really love vendor management because I still like to see who the people are that are working on the project. So I have to say that it's not only me at the moment. As far as we exist, except when we had really, exotic, like, let's say, combinations or requirements, I didn't have issues with that. I've managed to, go from, either from pros or some local organizations just to get to the right people. And while a lot of people claim, or other people claim for them, that they are qualified and you have everything nicely written in your CVs with 5 stars, for me, what always mattered the most, it's just the feeling that you got when you talk to this person. I mean, I know this may sound foolish because, okay, this doesn't say anything about his qualifications in the given language, but this usually gave me so much confidence, or it gave me this feeling in my stomach, okay, this won't go right. And unless you really needed this person because he was the king or queen or something, it happened that I turned some corporations down just because I just didn't like the attitude, if you put it in a single word. We did experience some people going for full-time jobs which are not necessarily connected to translation or languages. But I think we are getting new generation as well, and we've got this certain reputation, at least in Slovenia, that we do get in some good applications. So I think for the time being that we've had no problems. But what we did maybe experience back in 2018 when we started employing anti-post editing more, that we just had to figure and just make this mental switch that even the best translators are not necessarily the best post editors. And I know a lot of them hate this. This is just in terms of explaining, the people working on machine translations just needed some extra skills, and not necessarily all translators had that. But I think that now, 5 years later, that this changed, and even MT got better. So this gives us a wide range of people to work with. But of course, sometimes you have to be resourceful and dig everywhere possible just to get to the right person. And what I like doing the most, it also proved as a good practice, is going by recommendation. If there's a translator that you trust and you love working with them, I'm sure that they would not recommend a translator that's not good, because at the end of the day, it's their reputation and name on the line. So in this way, so far, to knock the wood, we didn't have challenges in this department.
Do you feel like when younger people, are you still getting like applications from uni graduates? Are they completely comfortable with post-editing? They don't even think that there would be a no post-editing workflow? Or do you still need to kind of onboard them, explain, okay, we're doing post-editing, we're working with MT?
I have to say that years ago, we stopped working with students that they're still not graduate, and we are still careful with the freshmen, but not only in the post-editing department in general. So really, these people, I did pass a couple of students because I know they were worthy of this chance, but in general, it's not only about that, but we really have to test them and train them in general, because unfortunately, I don't think that the Slovenian, but as far as I spoke to people from other European countries, the curriculum at the schools are just not on track with what's been going on the market. And as long as they have really limited access to CAT tools, they have a biased attitude towards MT and AI and post-editing, we will have a problem. But luckily, I think there's a portion of students or freshmen who realize that they won't survive at the market and just, I suppose, they do this on their own. But there was a way when this post-editing was raising a lot of brows, and I trust that we still do have a lot of translators with a label, they don't do MT post-editing, but I think we are getting less of those talents lately.
Yeah, fewer and fewer. Lead gen, Gregor, as a salesperson that started the hard way, the Amway way. That's probably as much of a sales education anybody can wish for at 15, 16, 17, right? So how do you generate leads today on sales and marketing front? Like, it's super competitive. The market's so noisy. There's a gazillion tools, a gazillion providers. How do you even start a conversation about, hey, do you have translation services you want to send to me? Like, how do you do that?
Florian, I always love that topic. I never get used to it because it is hard, and whenever something is hard, it gets you're really satisfied at the end. If you have a satisfied customer. I'm a kind of a old-fashioned salesman, in that sense. So I send emails. I go lately, for example. I'm always out there, So I attend conferences, events. People say, "God, Gregor, you are always everywhere." So yeah, that is something that I'm saying. You actually, the way we do business, you have to shake hands. You have to hug someone, and talk to them and really feel the person, and then okay, slowly, okay, this is you, okay, and then, okay, what are your pain points, and how can I help you? I always ask myself nowadays, how can I help you? That doesn't mean business right away, but you want to be in some club, you want to get in contact with someone, so I trying to add some value to the relationship at the beginning, and then when someone sees that, I think it's a natural path that someone he wants to give something back. And there are plenty of opportunities out there, plenty. I'm amazed when I go out there in some of the biggest companies here in Slovenia and in the region, and I remember the last time I had this insightful talk with a lady from a construction company. It was interesting, because we were there for 1 hour, and she's working in R&D, for example. And maybe just to add to lead generation, what the situation is, that middle management now thinks that she is a translator, and that's the problem we're facing. But now she's telling me that she has to do this and she has to translate that, and then they are translating strings in one program, and they're so she actually, the more we talked, the more I saw that there are opportunities, you name it. There's one opportunity here for like just normal written translation of something from their department, and then there's a software localization opportunity, and so many opportunities. But the challenge I have now is, for example, this particular case is, and this is not a isolated problem, is that middle management, people who never translated in their life, they see this ChatGPT and all that we are talking about, everyone is now talking about that, and now they put the workload on their people. So people work more, and I think they believe that it's for their KPIs, it's good that they save, a couple thousand of euros, and this is a good KPI. But these people are working more; they're working more hours. And what is more important, and what I'm telling to them, you can do, what you're doing, but I think that bigger projects will suffer. She was also in charge for digitalization, and those projects are, not moving forward. So these projects could be big, and I'm kind of mixing the sales, how I do sales. I talk to people a lot, and I'm seeing this craziness in a way, but that's why I'm going up and down in my those feelings, because on a meeting I'm talking with someone and he right away gives me the opportunity. I have this. We are in this sustainability, and we have this green something we have to translate, and it has to really be like legally, and everything has to be really on a top notch. And you can tell that AI cannot be there. It could be helpful, but it couldn't reach the LSP. So there has to be many people involved, not just us, but the client as well. So their side, our side, so the communication going back and forth. People think nowadays that everything is instant. So everything function like AI, that everything will come out there like in a matter of seconds. But I think that in many cases doesn't go like that, and this is what I'm telling to the clients. Of course, for some emails, for communication day in day out, AI is perfect, and we are also using it, and we are adding some services like subtitling, for example, which we didn't do before, but now I think it's an opportunity. We have a know-how, we have a tool, and we can do it. And it is tough, because sales-wise, that's a slow process. and it takes a lot of effort and resources. And on the other hand, we have marketing, and I'm seeing that we're really struggling for the last couple of years regarding that. There's, as you said, a lot of noise happening, and people, I think, really have trouble finding the right partner. And for that reason, many times they decided to just use ChatGPT, and they're working something on their own. And for that part, for this kind of person, for this companies deciding to have that path, then I can only say maybe I can help you, and I can consult you. So this is again a new shift for us.
So I like what you said, when you just have to be out there. I mean, in my previous LSP life, we went to every like Chamber of Commerce event there is, right? We talked to everybody. At the end of the day, the head of sales would walk into the room. It's like, hey, there's the translation guy, right? And then from there, you could start the conversation, and you can figure out the problems, which, you know, are very different per client. And, you know, if you can help them solve the problem, they're happy to, again, spend those $2,000 or euros maybe, and give you that work and free up that internal person from doing like language work that they probably shouldn't be doing anyway. So yeah, that's a good approach. Now, talking about marketing, I saw you also do a podcast, and you do it more professional than we do here at Slator Pod. You have an actual studio, and like you have good mics, like the whole, you know, Shure mics and nice lighting and everything. Unfortunately, I would have needed translation to understand some of those. Like some of those, I believe, were like really high kind of caliber Slovenian business people. But they were Slovenian, and my Slovenian is kind of non-existent, so I could have used some MT there. Long way of saying, tell me more about the podcast. Kind of why are you doing a podcast? And yeah, like who do you invite, and kind of what's the background there?
I just want to invite you to check our last podcast. It's with English subtitles. Actually, it's in English and with Slovenian subtitles and English captions. So I invite you with the director. I hosted the director of MAN, so a big
Truck company,
truck company, bus company. So
I know them.
Really
Yep.
good, really good insight on how to run a branch of a global company and what they are thinking about, how they think about sales and marketing and language and so on. But Olivera, I think you should share more about the podcast.
But thanks for commenting, because I think we were considering, should we go with or without subtitles. So this is a message for us, just to go for it. Actually, this is a legacy of the marketing strategy I mentioned earlier, that came up with the startups and scale-ups. And this is what we also kept. So it also came out of the blue. Okay, you will be hosting podcasts. And of course, it's in the period when everyone's just shooting podcasts. So we were thinking, okay, should we do this? And we just went for it. And we have this really great space and great team that supports us. So we've been doing that less frequently, though, in comparison to you. But it's great, because I think that people that we invite, that even though some of them are really high profile, they are really happy to be there, because it is somewhat different. The original idea was to address startups and scale-ups. So the first couple of episodes, are the people from that world, just to talk about their path. And of course, just in one segment, we address the localization part. So of course, the idea is to address that part as well, but not that aggressively. It's more of a business talk with a bit of the seasoning about languages. It depends on the guests, though. Some of them are more involved in this sphere, some of them not. So it's been a really exciting path for us. And while it started, just to get closer to this startup scale-up world, today we invite people from wherever, and it adds to our brand, our visibility for sure. Because it's a bit similar, like you said. Oh, we saw your episode. We saw you're having podcasts. So if nothing else, it adds to this visibility. Of course, we would like to make this at least partially more about languages. But what I also wanted to add earlier when you were talking about leads, a challenge for this, I can see a region, not only Slovenia, is the buyers or the clients that we have. You know, whenever we were going to Lockworth and all other conferences, they were like all these really big and developed buyers in terms of localization processes. Here we deal really with other clients who, you know, they don't have resources calculated and don't have processes calculated. And you really have to ask for their investment. You know, the client that Gregor mentioned before, they are aware that the text is really specific, but you know, we had to really persuade them, let's make a glossary together to make this work for both of us. So on the long run, we would like really to invite more and more people that we can talk about languages and localization even deeper. But even in this format, I think it's really rewarding for everyone included. And what I wanted also to bring up, because it is part of the marketing, the reason why we are actually here, because we have, she's rather new. She's not been with us, not even for a year, Andrea. And it's actually her idea and her initiative that we are here. So that's to
Thanks,
answer
Andrea.
yeah. So this is to address marketing. You know, I can say that we've been struggling about finding the right formula, you know, working with agency, with freelancers. Should we hire someone? Should we not? And then, last year we got Andrea, who is just having her hands on that department. She's doing really a great job. So I wanted to thank her here as well for bringing us to your podcast as well.
Great. Don't give up the podcast, your own podcast. It takes commitment, but if you stick to it, you know, regular schedule, it can be really rewarding. Cool. So, question for you, Gregor. I mean, there's all this kind of M&A, all this buying and selling of LSPs, sometimes more, sometimes less. Like, how do you see this from your part of the world? And have you considered any kind of non-organic plans, maybe a merger, maybe, you know, a tie-up with somebody in the region? What are your thoughts on that?
Actually, back in 2019, we were a target of a bigger LSP, actually the biggest one in Slovenia. So before that, it was, I think, 6 years in the business. I said, oh my God, so we are doing something great, I think, because we are already on the radar. At the end, I didn't see the real offer, like concrete. So we kind of finished on that note that it was, you know, we talked, we discussed some things, but there was no serious offer from their side. So that was my first experience, like real experience on that part. Yes, I'm seeing that quite a lot in the industry, but I must say that my head now is like really focused on sales and what I can do. But you know, our doors are always open. I think we have plenty to offer. We are a very stable team with very stable revenue at this point. We are still small and boutique. And of course, you know, my mission always was to get to that point, which I mentioned earlier. So we want to be a serious player in this region, like not just in Slovenia, but a bit broader. So of course, if anyone out there is listening and thinking about it, I think we're open for discussion. but I don't think we are in the position of buying, to be honest, or maybe I don't have the knowledge or at this point, it could be either of those or both.
So to get to the 5 million, 10 million LSP, what's on the roadmap for you guys for 2025, for next year? And generally, maybe your industry outlook. Not sure who wants to start. Maybe you, Olivera.
Gregor already mentioned we are really in this really challenging period. So really going strong and staying alive without, being too pessimistic. That's the main thing. But of course, for us, it's really important just to build on the existing relationships and just grow as much as we can and as much as we know. When you were talking earlier about revenues, what I noticed that we are staying stable in the last couple of years, but let's not forget that the service has been paid less in the last years. That means that we are working more to stay stable. So I see that as a positive side. I want to stay positive, even if you're just keeping, not going so up. But we have to be really, I think, resourceful just to grow, and we have to, no matter what, without AI, with AI in the loop, we just have to keep the quality up. I think this, in our case, really proved true, that when we consolidated our team in these terms, that we really care and deliver for quality. This is, at the end of the day, what matters, or at least this is the clients that we look for, that this matters to them. That's certainly something that we will work on no matter what. And I think that Gregor has some other ideas too, so...
No, I just want to add to this that we were reading the book Atomic Habits last month or so.
We don't have that much time, so we're reading it for the entire month.
It's okay. It's not about the quantity; it's about the quality. I would say it's interesting for me because I was learned that I always have to, check the numbers, the goals, KPIs, and everything. And that's one part of GORR, and the other part is Olivera, and she knows this. She has this other things she cares about, the quality and the production side and the team and the happiness and the sustainability and everything. So I think, we want to grow like in a healthy way, if you will. So if that means like 5 to 10% per year is, I believe, a healthy growth. And how we want to do that is, just really think about the processes, really think about small things that we want to improve. That was the message, in this book. So you have to think about, every day, what can we improve, what could be better for the client. So one of the biggest mistakes in the year 2023 was just losing, because we were focused on the startups and losing the focus on the existing clients, and that, that's always a wrong path to go. You have to work on your clients, work with them, think about how to bring them up, and grow with them. So, of course, I always go out there and talk with others and other clients and explore more options, because we would like to get to those 10 million or 5 or 10 millions, and still far from that, but never forget about the people who you work with. So we really, really work a lot to be good with each other, first of all, then to be good with translators, paying them on time, talk to them, not to just, they always appreciate when they say, oh, it's so nice, you talk to me and you invite me to these events, you hang out with me. I'm not just a factory. those feedbacks mean so much to me, Olivera, and this is what you want to give to the rest of the team. And on the other side, we have these clients, these companies, bigger, smaller, but at the end, those are people, and we really working on that relationship. Where this will bring us, I think, far. It doesn't really, at the end, it's more than profit. Today we are talking about sustainability and other big things, and we want to be a part of that, So it's a bigger picture I'm seeing here.
All right, bigger picture. Olivera, Gregor, thank you so much for taking the time today. This was great.
Thank you so much, Florian.
Great to be part of this podcast. Thanks for the invite once more.